We are back for Open Bible, Open Life. My name is Spencer. I'm here, as always, with Pastor Kyle, and we are going to talk about the heights today.
Come on.
But before we do that, we have to address the elephant in the room.
What is the elephant in the room?
Which is you have a hat that says, "For Jesus." Can you tell us about that?
Well, first of all, if our listeners are unable to watch this video and they're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you need to be more clear. It says FORE for Jesus, okay?
It's also the color of an elephant.
That's right.
Great.
So here's the thing. This hat showed up in my office, and I don't know. So maybe I'm wearing this in part to say, if you sent this to me, thank you, and who are you? Because someone said this to me. It's actually a very nice hat. I don't do a lot of what's called witness wear. Witness wear is where you wear explicitly Christian stuff. But I like that. It's a cool hat. It's a cool little, I like the stitching on it. And the whole idea, I think someone knows, man, I love Jesus. I love golf.
Yes.
Hopefully in that order.
Yep.
But Jesus needs to be first in my life, not golf. But anyway, it's kind of a funny thing. I figured I'd wear it, especially in light of us. I think we're going to talk a little bit about merch.
Oh, yeah.
And a little bit of swag. Or the swag,
tell us about it. So we're going to have some swag for the first time at the Heights. Tell us about it.
Well, I need to be clear because you know what swag stands for?
Tell me.
Stuff we all get. So it actually is not officially swag, even though I called it.
Merch.
It's probably merch because it's stuff we all get if we pay for it. Okay, that's kind of...
Sure.
But you know what? I have not seen, at the time of this recording, I have not seen it in person. I've seen mock-ups. But it looks like we're going to be having, I believe, 2 different hats, 2 different shirts. And really, we're going to have, I don't want to get it. Well, maybe we'll get it. You'll decide if you ask questions, we'll get into this. But we have a certain theme this year. We're trying to get better. And so we want to be even more intentional. We want to drive a theme throughout the entire time. And
Yes.
so it's one thing to go merch. Yeah, we want it to be cool and nice and memorable, but it's like, we want it to be another reminder. It's like a modern way, you go back to the Old Testament. It's like God had all of these physical ways.
Mm-hmm.
He said people should remember him.
Yes.
And we don't have to do that in the New Testament, but I still think there's a helpful principle. So sometimes having the shirt from the event to go, man, this is where God really moved in my life. Or just, man, this is where I had an incredible time of worship and built some new friendships and finally heard Jon Tyson in person, kind of. So we're going to have 2 hats, 2 shirts, trying to think for everybody, young and old, men and women.
Yes. So the Heights is almost here, and you've been talking about it on Sundays. We've been posting about it on social media. We've been sending emails out, but pretend like I just moved to Winston-Salem. I have no idea what the Heights is. What is the Heights? The
Heights, man, I've always tried to figure out what's the best way to say it. I think it's a mountaintop experience before we head into the mess of the fall. Okay.
Mm.
So again, I'm not saying our lives are a whole mess. I'm just saying there is a messiness to the fall. I had done a recording on going back to school and with a couple of our staff, and they were saying, oh yeah, it's we need to get a new Bible. We need to get our pencils. Do we need a backpack? We're trying to organize kids and sporting events, and summer is over, and we're back into it. The weather's getting cooler. It's like we're heading into winter. And so in the midst of all that, we're like, man, could we at the end of summer and at the very beginning of the fall, could we kind of, I don't have the right language for it, but could we kind of like have a catalytic event that catapults us into the fall? And I just think there's something about, most people, the best people in our church probably come to church 3 out of 4 Sundays, maybe 4 out of 4 Sundays. The average person, sadly, maybe more once or twice a month.
That's right.
Now we're saying instead of once or twice a month, how about 4 times in 1 week? And how about you do that back to back to back? And how about you do that Thursday, Friday, Saturday night? And so I think what it is it's a 4-day, to use a probably overused word, a 4-day experience.
Yes.
And in which we're not requiring, you don't have to come to all 4. We think that's going to be the greatest experience. But we're going to have different speakers we'll get into. And it's an opportunity to worship longer, to respond a little bit more deeply. Mm-hmm. We're trying to be biblically faithful on Sundays. Sometimes we can't do everything the scripture says to do in the hour and 20 minutes we have on a Sunday service with parking lot changes, another building, and kids ministry. And so this is a chance to go, we're going to pray a little longer. We're going to worship a little more passionately than we can, or we want to, but you get what I'm saying. We're going to bring in some speakers. I think one of my favorite things about the Heights is like, man, I get to bring in some people that I personally know that are going to bless this church. People don't even, they know Jon Tyson, maybe, but people don't know some of these guys.
Yep.
People last year didn't know James Merritt that well. They didn't know Mark Clark that well. Anyway.
Yep. No, that's good. We'll get to our speakers here in a second, but I want to know if you could choose 3 preachers, dead or alive, to come to your Dream Heights conference.
Oh my goodness.
Excluding biblical characters. Who would those 3 preachers be and why?
Man. Billy Graham.
Okay.
I've always had a fascination with Billy Graham.
We'll put him on Saturday night.
Now, Billy would be Billy, just give us call us all to Christ. Preach the clear gospel. I think Spurgeon. would be another one.
course.
Just a clear, man, I'd love to hear the Prince of Preachers without notes for an hour with that beautiful English accent.
Absolutely.
Just teach us. And then the living one, we just were talking about him before you started the podcast, John Piper. He has just been, he's impacted an entire generation, whether it's an entire generation of missionaries, an entire generation of pastors. I mean, I just can't believe, I'll go and look at one of his random look at the book studies, just random. It's on 1 Thessalonians 2, like 48,000 views. And it's just him with a little pen machine. So anyway, those three men, they're each from different generations. Of course, Billy and John Piper overlap a little bit. That would be, that's a great question. That would be an incredible conference. Although I'm genuinely, I think, and we won't get into next year's, but you and I are saying this, we've already got 2 of the 3 speakers for next year. And so this is just something that I get excited about every time I get excited to invest in our churches, to be invested in by these guys. And then, you know, a few of us, not a lot of us, but a few of us have the opportunity while they're in town to spend a little bit more time with them. So to me, it's always special too. It's like, man, I'm going to get a little bit of time with Jon Tyson.
Yes.
And anyway, that's what's so influential.
Yeah, it's good news. So like you said, we spend a lot of time with many of these big speakers that come in. What are some trends that you have noticed when you have spent time with some of these well-known pastors? Like, are there any common threads you've noticed with them? Like, what do you find yourself thinking they all have in common? Everything from the Mark Clark to the Al Mohler to, you know, like,
We've had
what do they have in common? Oh, yeah.
Man, that is a great question, because what immediately stands out to me is just like how different they all are at first. But I want to think about that, because I think about, you know, Mark Clark and he's kind of young and he's very funny. And then you have Al Mohler, who's very formal. And then you have Lee Strobel, who's kind of like down the middle evangelical. You know, it's just James Merritt, who's kind of old school Baptist, but like still energized. Yeah. I would say, you know, Robbie Gowdy, we just had in. I mean, I think when I think of, what I feel with all these guys is, man, they're just the real deal. Like, they are the same person when you're hanging out with them late that night or getting lunch. Like, they're thinking, this is not a job for them. Yes. They are thinking about this stuff all the time, whether it's theology, cultural issues, winning people to Christ, discipling the next generation. They are consumed by, they're all a little strange. I mean that in a good way. Like, I mean, you have to some of these guys, at least, to get to where they are. I'm not saying they haven't avoided their family. I just mean all of them. I mean, Al Mohler can read unbelievably fast. For, you know what I'm saying? You just have, you know, Robbie Gowdy has a crazy testimony of just coming to Christ out of like a serious drug addiction, which he talks about. You know, Lee Strobel has a wife that, you know, believes and that he doesn't. He's an investigator. And so they're all, a lot of these guys, not all of them maybe, but a lot of them were converted later in life. That's one thing that, you know, not all of them though. But anyway, that's it.
Something I've noticed is that all of these guys have a lot to say. Like, whenever we spend time with them after they speak, usually we sit around, we ask them questions, and they don't talk a lot in a way that's like a lack of social awareness. They talk a lot in a way that's like they clearly have so much to say about this topic.
100%.
You can ask them about prayer. You can ask them about biblical literacy. You can ask them about, hey, tell us about what it was like early in your career as a leader. And they just talk and they talk and they talk and they talk. And I think that one of the reasons why they are where they are is they have a lot to say about a lot of different things.
They do.
And another thing that I've had this thought as we spend time with these guys is it's not an accident that they have the platform that they do.
Yes.
You know, it's like, because sometimes it's like, okay, it's like I think of like well-known singers. Some of them are well-known because of who their dad was or because they had money or whatever. But like these guys are they have the platform they have for a reason.
Yeah, there's a lot of say what you're saying but a little differently. Just there's a lot of substance to them. There is a lot there, and they've even if they're younger, they've lived a lot of life. They've seen a lot of ministry. They know a lot about it.
Yeah. So obviously we're very excited about Jon Tyson coming in on Thursday night. Tell us what you're most excited about with Jon Tyson coming in.
Well, I mean, I know Jon decently well. I had an opportunity, I don't know if I shared this last time, but I had an opportunity, you know this, but I had an opportunity to spend about 4 days with him in New York City. This was in October of 2022. That was a really interesting year. I think the same year I went to spend time with Jon Tyson, I got to go to Israel, and those happened within like 2 months of each other. And Jon was just a couple things come to my mind about Jon. I mean, he's from Australia, but does ministry in New York City. He's got this beautiful Australian accent, which is a little different than an English accent, but it's similar in that as soon as I hear it, I'm like, I don't hear that often. Like, I love that. That's a shallow thing, but I would say he is really a deep person. We were kind of saying all of our speakers are deep, but I'm like, he's deep in the sense of he's really a man of prayer. And again, when I say this, I'm not saying that none of the other guys are, but I'm saying like Jon is the kind of guy who, he took us to this one part in New York City when I was with him. And he said, I come here every Saturday night and I pray. I'm like, I don't think I could say that about any location in our. He's like, I come here and I pray.
Yeah.
He said things like he told us, this is my desk and I'll put my prayer requests out before God on this desk. And I'll say, God, we have a problem because I have a problem and we're in covenant relationship. So that's the kind of stuff you're just like, he's building a deep prayer culture. When I first I keep referencing the time I spent with him. I only did this one time. I was up with him for 4 days. We get in there the first night. We're all hanging out at the bonfire. I'm thinking, this is amazing. Like, we are in New York City with Jon Tyson and like 8 of my friends that are pastors. And he said, all right, mates, whatever. He said, we're getting up tomorrow morning. We got to be at prayer in downtown at like, I can't remember. It was no later than 7 a.m. And it's already like 11:30, midnight when he's telling us this. So, but we get up and we go to an hour-long prayer meeting. Now, there was some music and everything, and it wasn't even that well attended. I mean, it was like 30 people. But what do you expect for 7 a.m. and whatever?
Sure.
But there's this prayer culture. He had a prayer pastor on staff. So I would say prayer. I would say he's a big guy of revival. So he's probably like most famous recently for God comes where he's wanted.
Yes.
He just kind of found a phrase that I think spoke to the hearts, especially of the younger generation.
Yes.
It's based in scripture. That is a true phrase. It's based in desire and experience. I would say also he has a unique passion for men. That's why last time we had him here, he spoke to men. So like he wrote Fighting Shadows, which is a good book. I say good book. He wrote it with Jefferson Bethke. It's a good book. We gave it to all the guys that came, or many of the guys that came. I would say Intentional Father is an A+ book. It is and some critics of it would say it only works for certain personalities, and I get that. So I but I would say in general, Jon's book is excellent. He has taken discipling his son, and he also has a daughter, very seriously, and he does this whole primal path thing where you could do it for I think literally years. William would just be a little young. It's usually like right as your son's turning 12, 13, heading into anyway. But we're getting close to it, and it would be something I would consider anyway. So he is fantastic, and honestly, we're humbled to have him. I mean, I don't know if you know this. He spoke at Passion this
for the first time. Yep, tens and tens of thousands of college students.
Well, what's interesting is he and I had lunch at Putter's here in town before he spoke here, and we're at lunch, and I don't know if I'd call him a friend, but we know each other enough to share a couple things. And he said, "I've got to tell you something." We're at lunch. When was this? April of last year, and he said, "So over a year ago," he goes, "Louis called me and invited me to Passion. Don't tell anyone." And I just rejoiced with him there because he has felt like we're doing a great work and I'm trying hard to get these messages out. And sometimes I feel like I'm hitting a wall. And then basically the biggest Christian college conference, one of the biggest conferences in the world, calls you to be the mainline speaker.
Yes.
Last thing I'll say is he's a revival chaser. He would say that. He is obsessed with
went to Asbury.
Yep. He is obsessed with the unique outpourings of the Spirit.
Yes.
And whether that's something that happened at Saddleback Church recently, or whether that's Asbury, or whether that's a revival 100 years ago that he has to get on a plane and go see and talk to the people whose grandparents were a part of it.
Oh yeah. We'll get to Renewal and Revival here in a second.
Okay.
Let's talk about Dave Stone. So he's going to be with us on Friday night. I believe he lives in Arizona now. But for years, for 10 plus years, he was a pastor in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yes.
Of a very large church. I mean, I think he grew up from 15,000 to mid 20,000.
That's right. So you know what he is, we'd have to look up who was the pastor before that. But the pastor before Dave, very famous. Like, not in our generation. If I said his name, you'd be like, I never heard of him.
Yep.
But that also just tells you how fleeting all of our lives are. But he was a very famous pastor. And he started Southeast Christian Church in Louisville, Kentucky. Dave Stone was his teaching pastor. And so what's interesting is there's a guy in our church who did his residency. He's a little bit older. He's probably in somewhere in his 50s. And he did his residency in Louisville. And he said to me, when I told him Dave Stone was coming, he said, "Oh yeah, I was at the church when Dave Stone was the teaching pastor." And we began to talk. Dave is a guy, to be honest, I don't know as well. What happened with Dave Stone is I went to an event for pastors, and he was brought in to speak. This was a pretty significant event I was at, and he was brought in. And I thought, I've never heard of this guy. And the other guys they brought in were like Paul David Tripp.
Sure.
You know, they were just all headlining names. The CEO of Compassion was there, and then Dave Stone. Okay, I've never heard of this guy. He's got a pretty simple name. So each word is one. Each name is one syllable. Dave Stone, great.
Yep.
And he got up there, and it's hard to explain. You know, I know this a little bit. You don't have to be a communicator to know this, but like, he just kind of got up there, and I'm like, this guy is seasoned.
Mm-hmm.
And he just started out by telling us a story of losing his laptop on the plane, and it was just such a great story, and how his staff started to make fun of him, and it led into this whole thing. And so, what I would say about Dave is a pastor to pastors now. He was a teaching pastor for years. Basically, whatever you think of really large churches, one thing that I can tell you is whoever is teaching there is very good. They can hold attention. I would say Dave is a storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Bible guy, but he's the kind of guy that would just, tell you stories that make you think about your life, about your marriage, about your family. He's the kind of guy that you'll be laughing really hard, and then you'll be wiping tears from your eyes. That was my experience. He's a guy now that, if people wanted to check him out, he's a guy that, I don't know how to properly talk about this. He now, I think you mentioned he lives in Arizona. He contracts with churches. So he's got to think his own ministry, but he's such an incredible teacher. And a lot of churches that are like, hey, we're a big church and we don't have a second communicator, they will, for example, Josh Howerton, he will speak usually at that church, which is like 30,000 people. He'll speak there 3-4 times a year. And then one of the largest churches in America, top 5 maybe, CVCC, whatever it's called, Church of the Valley in Scottsdale. That's why he lives there. Mm-hmm. He's contracted there to preach about 8 times a year. So we were actually, he would never tell you this. He's humble, and he was humble in telling me this. I reached out to him a long time ago and said, we'd love to get you for 2025. And he said, I can't remember. It was basically like, I might have 2 potential openings in the entire year.
Wow.
And so he was able to move something around just a little bit to be here because it wasn't on a Sunday, which makes it a little bit easier for him to get here. So he'll be here Friday night. I'm just telling you, I think everybody's coming going, oh, Jon Tyson, this young guy I heard about on Passion. Yep. I think they come back the second night and they go, I was moved by whatever. Yeah. And by the way, I've given all these guys complete freedom in the sense of said, here's the heights, here's the vision for the conference.
Yep.
But I'm not telling you must preach 1 Peter 1. Right. I want them to bring whatever's hot on their heart.
Oh, yeah. I look forward to hearing from him. The last one's going to be Clayton King, Saturday night. He's from the area, does a decent amount of speaking in this region. You know, he teaches Summit Biltmore Church. He's got his camp, things of that nature. What do you know about Clayton?
Yeah. Well, most people will probably know John in the sense of nationally, but Clayton would be actually, the average person in North Carolina would probably be more familiar with Clayton, the average Christian, than with John. Clayton King is interesting. I was introduced to Clayton King when I was a freshman in high school. I was just telling somebody about this. So I was a freshman in high school because I was talking to somebody about this yesterday or the day before. And I was saying that so he's not that much older than me. Like I'm 40. I'm guessing he's late 40s maybe.
I think he's in his early 50s.
He might be early 50s. Okay, he's 10 years older than me. So I guess that makes more sense. I was a freshman though, so I would be 19. And okay, maybe he was late 20s. He shows up at Elon University and he is the big, hey guys, we're not meeting in the normal place. We're meeting in the big chapel, and they brought him in. And I just remember he's not Billy Graham. No one's Billy Graham, but he has an ability to, like a lot of evangelists, he has an ability to relate. He has an ability to make you laugh. And then he has an ability to just make the realities of the gospel and the urgency to do something about it. The whole, if you died tonight, heaven and hell are real. Christ is worth it. Like he just has that, and that's something I want to grow in. He has that spiritual gift to, I don't know, it's officially aligned to spiritual gift. He has the gift to call people to decisions.
Yes.
And so I'm excited to have him here. He's somebody that has done Crossroads Camp. He's a good friend of Pastor J.D. Greer. And he was very willing. I think he's now not only doing, of course, his evangelistic ministry, but he's a teaching pastor at New Spring Church. So he's very busy.
Wow.
I think that's what he does. At least, don't hold me that. At least a couple years ago, he was stepping in and teaching a lot. When Perry Noble stepped down, he was doing a lot of Bible teaching at, again, one of the biggest, most influential churches in the nation.
Totally. So one of the things we hope is that the Heights is going to be a time of renewal at an individual level, but by the grace of God, revival at a corporate level. Talk to us about that. Like, why is renewal something that all of us need at some level?
Yeah. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I love Tim Keller's definition of renewal, which is when the doctrines of sin and grace become more real to me than they were, and they could be really real to me, but they need to be more real to me. And so renewal is so important just because it's the whole classic, like, you're never in neutral. You're either usually going in reverse in some area or you're growing. I think, trying to set up environments intentionally, because this does take a lot of work. We were talking about this as a staff, again, I don't know when we're releasing this exactly, but we were talking about this as a staff 2 days ago. And we were talking through every detail of this, from the worship sets at night to when we're doors opening, to the merchandise tent, to the food that we're going to have there, to the separate nights that we're going to do on Saturday that maybe we'll get into. And it was just like, I, as somebody who is not super good with all logistical details, knowing that I don't even have to be responsible for this stuff, I'm just like, this is all. I literally had the thought, I'm like, there is a lot that goes into this. And it's genuinely because, like, we want to bring camp to our church. And so what we're trying to do is we can't, like, the old idea of, like, the churches put the word revival out and they say, hey, we're revival, it's like, I don't want to presume upon the grace of God that we can have a revival. That's something God has to do. But I'm asking God, would you renew us? I think, man, it's like, all the time, it's like, there's things that are going on in people's lives and they need, not good things. And it might be suffering, it might be sin. It's like, and they need an environment that calls it out of them. Like, it's time to tell someone you're suffering. It's time to take that step of obedience. It's time to ask her out. It's time to tell him the relationship's over. He's not your boyfriend anymore. Like, we just need those last night of camp moments. And so we're just trying to uniquely create them. And for some reason, and I thank God for this, and I hope this will continue, our church loves them. Our last prayer night, people were, we had over 1,000 people come to a Monday night prayer night after we have 3 services on Sunday in the middle of the summer, and people are whistling and skipping as they come in there. They cannot help themselves. They want to get here. They're getting here early. They're sitting in their seats. They're singing loudly. And then we go for 2 hours. Our last prayer night was 2 hours long, prayer and worship night. And I thought afterwards, I got down off stage. I thought, I went too long. And then I watched people stay for an hour. And the worship center was full because a lot of people knew each other and they were with their community groups and they just stayed. And then I went out to the lobby to say hey to some people. And it was more crowded than, even though it was nice outside, it was actually more crowded than on a Sunday because everyone was just talking to each other. And I'm like, we just have such a sweet spirit. Part of it is as simple as, like, the church is not a building, but we do love this building. And we love that it lets us gather. And I genuinely think, man, people love to be here. And thank God for Dave and his team who built and designed and helped us have such a great facility. I think people love to be here. We're like, we want to open this building up. I don't know if we're going to talk about this. We should talk a little bit about it. If we're not, just some of the prayer we're going to be doing ahead of time.
Yeah.
That's
tell us. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, sorry. So basically, we're trying to, part of it, I guess it fits under renewal in the sense that, like, we're trying to go, all right, God, we want you to show up, and to quote Jon Tyson, you show up where you're wanted.
Yes.
And so one of the things we're trying to do in preparation of this, there is send out the text and remind everybody about this. And then there's like, man, we're going to, I think it's, for 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday because Monday's Labor Day.
That's right.
We're going to be here in the mornings in the worship center. And I just want to highlight that for
8 to 9 a.m.
Is it 8 to 9 a.m.?
It's
That's
open,
what it is?
It's open to whoever wants to come join us.
Great. And you're sure it's 8 to 9 a.m.?
That's what my Google Calendar invite says.
I just haven't seen the time. I'm trusting you on that one. Okay. I can't remember what it was.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be very, very special. Last time, I will say, it was not as well attended as I had personally hoped. It was the first time. I'm talking about the prayer times, which is actually normal for most prayer things.
Because moms have their kids, and
then again, we did it in a way that we felt like was sustainable for our staff in a way leading up to our to 3 or 4 days of conferencing. So we didn't want to do a 6 a.m. and then we're having staff here. So and I realized the average mom can't make it with school. The guy who doesn't have a flexible job can't make it. I say all that to say, the people who came, I think, found it unbelievably meaningful.
Oh yeah,
and we try to offer not too many things, but a couple. I'd almost call it like a compass or a map for how to pray.
Yep.
People are free to walk around the worship center and pray. People are free to go in groups and pray.
Yes.
And it's just a really sweet time. It kind of prepares your heart, especially I think that Thursday when we're doing going tonight, we're back here. Jon Tyson will be here and the rocket's launching.
That's right. I think it's all part of being expectant. We're doing a lot of things to prepare for this. We are preparing logistics.
Yes.
We are praying, and all of that is in an effort to be expectant for the Lord to move. I want you to tell us, like, why is it important for us to have an expectant posture? You know, something I like to say all the time is that if you expect it to be a normal Sunday, it will be.
Yeah.
And so why is it important for us to actually expect God to do something new?
I think it's because primarily God responds to faith. And when you said that, the first thing that came to my mind was Jesus could not do many miracles in Nazareth. You know, and that's one of and I've preached on that before, but that's just such a fascinating, because they were familiar with him, because they did not expect him to do anything. And so somehow the sinless, sovereign, preeminent Son of God, according to, Colossians 1, but also according to the Gospels, could not do miracles in places where people did not believe. And so, I would love to have more of an expectant culture. I love that word. I mean, of course, we came out of that series, but just, man, I want to believe God for big things. I want to pray for big things. I want to pray with my eyes open. I want to expect God to move in mighty ways. I mean, Spurgeon used to say that. I know we both love Spurgeon. We were talking about him earlier. Spurgeon used to say, if you think you'll see no converts, you won't. And he used to teach people how to do street preaching, because he would do that. Most people don't know.
Wow.
So, yeah. And there's a spirit of expectation you must go into street preaching with.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot go into street preaching with, everyone's going to hate me and no one's going to listen to me. You have to go into street preaching of, I've got something and people are going to respond. It's not believism, easy believism. This isn't manifesting, but this is the confident hope and confidence in God.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah.
Let's say someone is busy. They've got a lot going on. They come on Sundays, but that's about it. That's about it. And maybe they're like, I'm not really a conference kind of person.
Yeah.
Convince them to come to the Heights. Why should they set aside the time, get the babysitter?
Yeah, or even we're going to provide the childcare. We can get into that.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
That too.
Well, we'll return to that, because I like your question.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's like, man, I would just say to the person who's in that situation, would you just give it one night? I'm just saying, and I'd prefer it be Thursday night, because then I think you're going to love it so much. Come back, but I'm just telling you, I think most people, I continue to realize, most people never get to experience the things that people like you and I, especially who are on staff, maybe people who are deeply part of our church, like, they never get to experience it. I mean, I was talking to somebody recently, and they got away with some people in our church, and they just had a time of encouragement. And this guy is in his maybe 50s, 60s, and he was telling me how he has rarely in his entire life experienced anything like that. And this is a guy who's been in ministry. This is a godly man. And I'm just like, it's a little different than obviously Heights thing. I'm like, I'm just telling you, people are going to come and go, I have never experienced anything like this.
Oh yeah.
And it's transformational. I mean, one of the things that we really believe in here is, like, we believe, yes, get in a group and get connected and along obedience in the same direction. I believe in all that. But I also believe in, like, the isolated event that God uses in people's lives to call them. And to me, it's like, man, I need as much worship as possible. I'm not above that. I mean, I'm at all three services, and for the most part, I'm out there for almost every song, every service. Sometimes I'm tired or whatever, and I got a little bit of headache or whatever.
Yep.
But in general, I'm out there because for me personally, maybe I'm different. I need all three services.
That's right.
And so to me, I'm like, man, I think the average person needs to be there, and I say that in humility. I'm like, they need the Word of God preached to them. They need the accountability of being seen. It's like Dr. Moeller said. As I quote him earlier, but he said, Dad, why'd you always, make me go to youth and make me go to choir and make me go? And he goes, because if you weren't there, you'd be somewhere else. And he said, and Dr. Moore said, it's the kind of thing that hits you about 10 years later. Because he goes, what my dad meant is, where you'd be would not be as good as this.
Oh yeah.
And I think again, this is not to guilt anybody who's got vacation, who their son's got the tournament of his life, who's got the wedding. Forget all. That's what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about, like, dude, you find out that someone in our church, had their pickleball match that night. It's like, dude, I say this with deep love. Wrong priorities. Go play pickleball earlier in the day, or get up early. Like a man of God like Jon Tyson does not show up at your church very often. He's a big deal by the grace. He doesn't view himself. I'm telling you this. The fact that we've been able to get him twice, do not take this for granted.
Yes.
Donovan and his team are doing a great job. I would say the creative elements of this, and I use that. You understand what that means, but I don't mean that in a gimmicky way.
Sure.
The thoughtful, theological, biblical, creative way that we're trying to bring the truths of the gospel to people, it's very meaningful. And it's going to stack. I mean, the nights are connected. Yes. And it's one of those things, like we always say, we don't create downloadable experiences.
That's right.
Could you maybe find the talk later? I don't even know yet. We haven't even talked about if we're putting them up. And sometimes, by the way, this, we'll have a speaker and they'll ask us not to. and they'll say, hey, that's actually a talk that I give a couple different places, and I make it for them, but that's not something I want online. Yep. So sometimes it's even out of our control, but it's not going to be the same if you're not there.
Yes. Yeah. I think we need, and you were just touching on this, we need experiences that really just open our eyes, that shake us up in a good way. I can remember we were at Saturated at 1122 in Jacksonville 2 years ago, and 60 seconds into the worship service, I just looked around and thought, where am I?
Yes.
It was just, I literally got chill bumps when they started the service in a unique and special way that I wasn't expecting.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is one of the goals. I mean, it's a very informal, kind of blunt way, almost rude way to say it. But one of my goals is for the average person, the average Winston-Salem person, church, church, unchurched. I want them walking in and soon going, where in the world am I? What portal did I step into? Because am I in North Carolina? Am I in Winston-Salem? Where am I? Because who are these people? This is what are we singing? This is unbelievable. Yes. It's stirring my hearts. Mm-hmm. What this is the preaching is exposing my idols.
Yes.
And they're reading my mail. I'm moved by that story of that woman or that man or whatever God's doing. I'm challenged at the end by where this church is going, and I'm invited back next week. Okay. Like I get and I just, it's like, dude, there's more. The average Winston-Salem person needs to hear there's something more exciting.
Yes.
Than the next Wake Forest game.
That's right. That's
right. Like some people, that is the most exciting environment they've ever been in. I'm like, then you've never been to our church.
Yeah.
That's right. How I feel.
I had this thought back in our July prayer night you just talked about earlier. I was worshiping. I looked around at the room, and we've been able to experience so many amazing things the Lord has done in the life of our church.
Yes.
But we're almost 9 years in now, and I'm still not used to it. I was worshiping. I just looked at the room and I thought, there's almost nothing better than this.
Yes.
It's like your favorite Netflix show, not as good.
100%.
It's like the ACC tournament, not as good. It's like, and when you're in those moments, it's almost like the people who go to those events, they're not going to miss them in the future.
Yes.
I think 100%. I think in order for someone to come to our Heights conference or one of our nights of prayer and worship, if they come to one, all we got to do is get them to one. Because if they come to one, you're not going to want to miss it.
Well, when we were down at you and I were actually down at Saturated. Is it Saturated or Saturated?
Saturated.
Saturated.
Yep.
Sorry. We were down there 2 years ago. You and I were together. That was a fun story. But and I remember we stayed at this couple's house that we knew there. They're an older couple. They were kind to us. And I remember talking to her, and she was probably in her 60s, maybe late 60s. Mm-hmm. And she said, and I don't want to scare anyone off by saying this, but it was actually a sweet moment. She said, last year at Saturated, which is our version of the Heights, she said, last year at Saturated, I got sick. And I said, what? She goes, oh, yeah, because I had to be there every night. And I'm thinking, and they start on Tuesday night. We start on Thursday night. So they're intense. They do Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you're not going to get sick most likely you come to this. But what I loved about that is here's a lady in her late 60s. And she goes, I'm not missing a night. Mm-hmm. I'm not missing. If they're leading in worship, if they're leading in prayer, if they're bringing in a speaker that they think has a word for our church, I'm not missing this.
Oh, yeah.
And I hope that would be the spirit in our church. It's like, again, there's no judgment here. But I hope the average family would say, we need to get into kids for a second here. I hope the average family would say, man, we're trying to, I want you to church. This is not guilt to anyone, but like we've put a lot of time into this.
Yes.
So that's number one. Number two, we have tried to reduce friction and remove barriers to you getting there.
Yes.
We've tried to incentivize you coming. Not just with the spiritual, but with the different, hey, we're going to have this treat here and this, we give you opportunities for merch and all that kind of stuff. But I think what we're trying to do with the kids too is, again, we realize we're going to be starting a little bit later than we would.
Oh, yeah.
Families.
Timmy's going to get cranky.
Timmy and Johnny and Junior and whatever. Yeah. And so what we're trying to do, and honestly, I need to do this more. I mean, just honor the kids, people, because there's going to be a whole group of people. And they're going to figure it out, and I pray for them. Yes. I need to pray for them, and I think about them because here's the thing that I want other people to realize. There are people, some of them are on our staff, but a lot of them are just volunteers in our church who one of the nights, they're not going to be in the room. They're going to go, you know what? As much as I wish I could hear, Kyle was telling me Dave Stone's a great storyteller. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to hear him, even though I would if I could, but I'm committed to watching the 2-year-olds this night. It's like, all right, well, your treasure's in heaven. Thank you. But it's like, I just want people to know, like, there's a whole army of people that think this is so important that they're willing to serve during it so you can experience it. And honestly, usually that's the godliest, most mature people in our church that are like, you know what? all right, I can serve in kids one night to free it up. So
Yes.
what we're trying to do, I don't, you may know this better than I am, but we're trying to, here's what I will say. We're going to have some, movies to watch. But with, as I joked before, not Gladiator.
It's not the Passion of the Christ.
Yeah. Like these are age appropriate, well, nowadays, this is what it's with Right Now Media and everything else we have. It's like there's access to such high quality, good content. So all I can say is more details to come if I've not shared these already, but on what exactly we're going to show. But the whole point is we want you to know that here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create an experience so that your kids want to come back.
That's good.
We want your kids going, Mom, I know you said you were only coming tonight, but like we started to watch this thing and I met Joe and they had popcorn tonight and they said tomorrow they're having, and so we're trying to, in the best word, incentivize you to come back and for your kids to come back. Now, again, if you want to get your kids to be watched by grandma, grandpa, or friends, totally up to you.
Yep.
It comes back to the principle that like, we really think that to be a good parent, you have to be a good Christian.
That's right.
And we think these events and environments help that.
Yeah. The story about that lady getting sick, is that why we've ordered a few thousand masks?
No.
Are we going to hand Heights masks at the door?
We are not handling Heights masks. No.
That's good. So I know that you are excited to be preaching the Sunday of the Heights. Tell us what you can about Sunday. Why should people come back? Because, they're going to be coming on many of them Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yes.
You're finishing us off. Why should we be excited?
I know. Well, I am excited. It is an honor. It's interesting for me. The Sunday Heights talk sermon has become almost like a second restart for our year, which is interesting because in January, which will just be 4 months later, we'll do our vision and where we're headed, in a lot of ways for 2026. But for us, there is, what I can tell you is we, over the last 3 months, have gotten a lot of clarity on what it looks like for our church into the future with campuses, into the future with church planning, a lot of what's going on with sending, some things that we're going to be repurposing. There's, so I would say as I look, I feel like, that our church hears me preach every week. So it's not like there's nothing new to tell you about my preaching style or whatever.
Sure.
But I think uniquely what I'm going to do is the current plan is, as of right now, is for me to drive home the theme of the entire conference, the final day, with a look toward the future and what this has to do with us. I would say some really, I don't want to over speak, but I think a big enough announcements that I think people are going to say, I'm really glad I was there. And it's kind of like, it's probably like, guys, we're heading into the fourth quarter of the Multiply Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what we know, what we're doing, and here's where we're headed next. So it's probably 75% preaching, a sermon, a text, driving home, 25% like State of the Union. We're headed into the fall. Everyone's beginning to think about the future, and vacation's done. So that's kind of my hope right now.
Nope.
But I've not, again, like all my messages, they're written in large part the week of.
Yes, it's good.
And honestly, I may be writing different things based on what happens at the Heights. I don't know. I want to be sensitive to the Spirit.
Sure, it's good. Well, I'm excited. I'm expectant. I know we're both going to be praying for personal renewal, and if the Lord wills it, corporate revival.
Amen.
And I very much hope that you will be able to join us at the Heights. Keep an eye out for information about dates, times, all those things on our social media page and our website. And we hope to see you at the Heights, and we will see you next time on Open Bible, Open Life.